Hello and welcome back to Indian Standard Time. I'm Jyoti Malhotra with the Tribune, and I hope you've had a really wonderful and long weekend, dear viewer. The mercury's been climbing all across North India. It's really hot in Chandigarh. But the hottest story this Monday is the stock market crash in Mumbai. The BSE Sensex as well as the Nifty have crashed 5.2%. I know many of you have lost a lot of money in that stock market crash. And that's what we have on Indian Standard Time today, where I'm going to attempt to explain what this means and why this is happening. Now, a lot of people are talking about this stock market crash as the biggest since the 2008 global financial meltdown. Many people in the US, and if you read the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Bloomberg, and many other American media, as well as our very own Tribune and many other Indian newspapers, you will understand what's going on. Donald Trump, the US president, on the 2nd of April, imposed global tariffs across the world on every country. The base tariff percentage was 10%, as we know already. India has 26%, China 34%, the European Union 20%. But guess what's happened in these last 5 days? Just before the weekend, the stock markets in the US crashed, wiping out $5.2 trillion from the US economy. Today, Monday, in India, like I said before, the BSE Sensex as well as the Nifty 500 crashed, wiping 22 trillion rupees from the stock market. And since the March 24th peak in India of the stock market, it seems like the market has lost about 9 crore rupees. Now that, dear viewer, by any stretch of the imagination is a lot of money. Okay, so I've got my glasses back on, so I'm going to give you some data of some Indian stocks, some blue chip companies. Tata Steel, which has plummeted 11.25%, marking the steepest decline among all stocks. Tata Motors follows with a sharp drop of 8.2%. Tech Mahindra tumbled 6.7%. Even Infosys and HCL Tech rounded up the top 5 losers, both sliding 6%. And I've taken some of this data from the Business Standard, which goes on to say that there was not a single gainer in sight across the BSE Sensex. Just to look at some of the international stock market indices, Tokyo's Nikkei 225 index lost nearly 9%. In fact, the Japanese futures were suspended due to the market hitting circuit breakers. Hong Kong's Hang Seng index lost 12%, and we know that Hong Kong is very much part of China. So let's see how that's going to impact the Chinese economy. And just as a reminder, dear viewer, the Chinese have imposed 34% tariffs back on the Americans. Taiwan, a hub for global technology, stocks were clobbered nearly 10%. South Korea tumbled more than 5%. Now, what the Chinese have also done is, apart from imposing a 34% tariff on all US imports, they have also restricted the exports of 7 types of rare earth minerals. And what that means, dear viewer, is that this iPhone or the smartphone that you hold in your hand, a lot of this is manufactured from the blue chip inside, the stuff that's inside this very slim phone that you hold in your hands. Some of that comes from these rare earths that very few countries in the world have, and amongst them is China. Of course, it had to be China. So what the Chinese have done is that they have imposed export bans or export controls on the export of these rare earths to the US. So what has been the reaction here in India? And I'm going to quote you again 2 market experts. The first, Ruchit Jain, the head of technical research at Motilal Oswal Financial Services, and he says, wait and watch. And guess what? That's the exact sentiment from Dr. V.K. Vijay Kumar, who's the chief investment strategist, Geojit Financial Services, who said no one has a clue about how this turbulence caused by Trump's tariffs is going to play out. So wait and watch. So that, dear viewer, is the sentiment this Monday. Wait and watch and perhaps pray. So let me explain to you now. Now, praying may be a good idea for some, but I think for some of us here, perhaps we need to know how to deal with this situation. Is it going to get worse, or will the market stabilize? Obviously, the jury is out on the question, but there are a couple of straws in the wind which I would urge you to consider. The first is the Chinese reaction themselves. Apart from imposing the 34% tariffs, actually the Chinese are being quite cautious. They understand how this is going to play out and how this could damage China even further. So what they are doing is that, and this is from the People's Daily, which is a newspaper, it's the Communist Party of China organ, the newspaper, which is saying that we have to play this carefully and cautiously. Moreover, some of the Chinese researchers in think tanks in China who have been critical of China's response to the Americans have been censored. So clearly the Chinese are being quite careful. If that happens, if the Chinese seek a deal with the US, which is what Trump is hoping will happen. Certainly, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, is not going to go to the US. We know that Prime Minister Narendra Modi went a month or so ago, a couple of months ago. But if there is a possible deal in the works between US and China, then I think that some of this stability or this bloodbath could stabilize. And that will, of course, be the best thing for the rest of the world. Now, the question is, what happens in India? What is the Indian government planning to do? Now, over the last few days, over the weekend, senior government officials, senior Government of India ministers have been speaking to the media, including to the Tribune. My colleague in Delhi, Aditi Tandon, who is the chief of bureau of the Tribune, she has met various people, and some of my other colleagues are also meeting people in the government in Delhi, and they have been reassuring these journalists that India indeed does have a strategy. Now, what we know is that India's senior-most officials, including Rajesh Agarwal, a gentleman who's just been impaneled as a secretary-level officer in the Commerce Ministry, India's ambassador to the US, Vinay Quatra, and India's Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, this triumvirate of officers is going to be engaging with the US government in the coming days and weeks, and charting out a possible compromise, a possible deal to avert some of the bloodbath that we have seen so far, and to try and stabilize the relationship between India and the US, primarily on the agricultural and non-agricultural sector. And isn't that what tariffs are all about? So here is India's strategy, which the Tribune has been privy to, speaking to various people over the last few days. The first is that India is going to hold firm, not bend down or kneel or capitulate in front of the Americans on removing or lowering tariffs in the agricultural sector. So whether it's in agri-products like wheat, rice, maize, corn, there's a lot of pressure on India opening its economy on corn, because that's what Americans produce. But the Indians are going to hold firm on the agri sector. However, as a means of compromise, India is likely or could be lowering its tariffs in the non-agricultural segment. For example, if India lowers its tariffs in the auto industry and allows the import of American cars, they are obviously going to still be more expensive than the cheaper Maruti cars that are available in the Indian market. So I think there is some understanding that India should lower its tariffs in the luxury goods segment, for example, whether it's the Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Now, those tariffs a couple of months ago did come down from 100% to 70%, but you could lower them even further. You could lower your tariffs on, say, medical equipment, on stents. That could be one way of opening up your market to American goods. Now, this compromise that is being worked out, that is being still hammered out, being put into shape, this is what is going to be the background of the conversations between India and the US. But before I go, dear viewer, I'd like to request you to click on the subscribe button, follow the Tribune, follow the YouTube channel of the Tribune, this show of mine, Indian Standard Time, as well as all the other shows from the stables of the Tribune. Thank you so much for watching, and see you all tomorrow.